Hello, Aldwyn, Altuney here. Welcome. We have a very special Mass Media Tribe webinar tonight with the amazing Andrew Carter. He is the CEO of Global Publishing Group, and he is quite a phenomenal guy. Was a professional pilot once upon a time. He's an entrepreneur. He's an author, a business mentor, a philanthropist, a public speaker, and he's run 3 highly successful businesses and founded 2 not-for-profit organizations. He's a business leader acknowledged for strategic and marketing intellect and is a recognized authority on aviation leadership, decision-making, and business turnaround. And tonight we're going to be chatting about how to write a bestseller, particularly if you're in business or you're an entrepreneur. You will absolutely love this. And we do have an amazing event coming up 24th to the 26th of March, which Andrew will be telling you more about as well, all about how to write a bestseller in Brisbane. So without further ado, let's bring forward Andrew Carter. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Aldwyn, and thanks everyone for being here. Thanks for that introduction. And yeah, look, Global Publishing Group is Australia's oldest and largest established entrepreneurial publisher. Now, I'll talk about the 3 different types of publishing as we go through this presentation, but as a percentage of authors published, we've published the highest number of best-selling authors in this country. So what I'm going to cover tonight is really, really important. Now, in particular, I'm only talking about non-fiction books. At least that's what we cover. So anyone that's joined us wanting to write the next Twilight or Harry Potter, I can still show you techniques that are going to make it quicker and easier for you to do that. But the books we concentrate on non-fiction, particularly how-to type books. Non-fiction outsells fiction by 2.2 to 1, and how-to is the most sought-after category. And where our success has come about because we help business owners generate far more money and get far more attention through a book. A book about you and your business is the best lead generation tool you'll come across. So for those of you listening in who haven't got a business, well, here's the interesting part. The number one reason for starting a business in Australia is simply because of a passion or a hobby or an interest. That's the number one reason. Now, interestingly, that's the same reason most people write a book. So what we're going to cover here is ways that you can actually build a business. You can take your interest, your hobby, and your passion, turn that into a book, and from that generate a business, and you're going to be talking massive amounts of income. Like I will show you examples as we go through this of what some of our authors are capable of doing. And it's actually going to blow your mind because a book is the single most powerful tool. It is the single best lead generation tool for your business, bar none. It'll have you stand out so completely and transform your business and create massive growth in it more than any single other strategy out there. Now, I know that sounds like a big claim, and I'm sure you've heard other people make similar claims about their whatever it is they're trying to spruik. But as you go through this webinar, you'll see this claim is completely true. And the interesting thing is it doesn't matter what industry you're in. It doesn't matter what business you're in. Look, it doesn't matter if you're, traditional bricks and mortar, service and goods type thing, or purely online business. Let's say you're just an online influencer. This will work for you. It is the single most important strategy you can implement in a business or to start a business. And look, I've had an extensive business background before doing what I do now, so I can state categorically that out of all the strategies as a marketer, all the things I've learned and shared, all the businesses I've helped as a coach, and all the things I've seen with the businesses I've grown, this is undoubtedly the number one strategy that works better than anything else. And that's why I'm so excited to be sharing this with you. And again, Aldwyn, thank you for the opportunity. So as Aldwyn said, there's no big sales pitch at the end of this, but I am going to mention an event we're running next week for those who want to know more, because there's a limited amount of time we've got here. And I'm going to cover a lot of incredible content, but I've got to move through it quickly. So if you have any questions, please just put them in the chat box and I'll answer them at the end in detail, and we'll certainly make time for them. So, look, a book is a very well used and proven tool by all of the greats in business. People like Tony Robbins, Russell Brunson, Robert Kiyosaki, and many of the big names in business you know, but it's now being used by thousands of business owners just like you, or just like you may want to be. And it works for all of them, and I'm going to cover the examples in this tutorial so that you can see it will work for you as well. But my question to you is, what is it that made these guys the go-to expert or authority in your eyes? Right? To be seen as the authority, believe it or not, first they became an author. Now, I assure you, as you go through this webinar, we will explain to you that it can be done quickly and simply, even if you can't type or write. And as I say, it's the single greatest strategy to gain people's attention, build trust and credibility, and then drive those people to your website. And I'm going to explain all of that in detail now. All I want to cover right now is why a book is so powerful for you and for your business. And it's all to do with people's perception. You see, the perception in society is that people had to do something over a long period of time to become an expert. And once they were an expert, then they could write a book. But that's just not the case. All the experts I've dealt with actually wrote the book first based on what they already knew. As a result of being a published author, they were then perceived as the expert, and they attracted a huge following as a result of that. And then they created the products and services they sell. It sounds like a bit of a backwards way of doing it, but that's how the most successful people have done it. And that's what we've been teaching people to do. And that's what they've become very successful doing. You want to establish yourself as an expert in your industry. You need to be seen as the authority. Why? When people perceive you as a go-to authority or expert in a certain field, they actively pursue you to purchase your products, services, and advice, and in fact, pay more for it. And you know this to be true. You've done this yourself. You want to search out the experts, and you will pay more to get your problem fixed by the people who've proven to do so. Okay. Look, to sell products and services, there's two things you got to do. You've got to be able to gain attention and build trust. So let's look at the first one. You have to be able to gain people's attention to let them know what you are selling. Right? The biggest problem that still exists today is that far too many people think that just by setting up a website or placing an ad or posting on social media or YouTube, that they're going to capture people's attention and make lots of sales. And look, a long time ago, maybe you could. However, both the online and offline market now are saturated. All right. So when you do any of those things today, you just become another Me Too business, another one of millions all doing the same thing. So you need to do something that will really make you stand out from the crowd, something that's going to make you noticed, okay? Something that's going to gain attention. Now, once you've got someone's attention, you need to be able to build trust. Trust is the single biggest barrier to people purchasing or buying your goods and services. And you know this. This is probably one of the biggest things that has held you back from doing any sort of business with people, okay? We're all reluctant to purchase goods and services from someone because of a lack of trust. We've all been burnt before. We don't want to be so again. So those of you who probably, if you are in business and you're watching this, you may have used sales funnels before, and you know that the general rule of thumb was you had to give something of value for free at least 7 times before the people trusted you enough to purchase from you, right? A book does away with all of that. A book about you and your business is the best way to gain attention and build massive trust and credibility. There is simply nothing else like it. Why? Well, believe it or not, being an author ranks in the top 10% of professions in terms of prestige. Authors are highly respected. When you're the author of a book, it is automatically assumed that you are the expert in your field. You don't need to state that you're an expert or that you're credible. The book will do that for you. The book acts as a third-party independent advocate of you and your business. Look, authors are held in high esteem and they're trusted, as is their message. And a large part of that comes from people believing it's difficult to write a book and be published. And it is, unless you have something like this tutorial to show you the simple tips, tricks, and techniques to get it done quickly and easily, even if you can't type or write, okay? So look, you never have to go around saying, I'm the expert or authority. Merely being an author on the book on the subject, the perception is you must be. Now, notice here I'm talking about positioning yourself as number one in your customers' minds. The biggest resistance I get at this stage is people say, oh, well, I can't be the expert. You know, I'm a life coach and Tony Robbins is the expert. Yeah, okay, I'll give you that. But what we're talking about is you can still be positioned as an expert, and the book will do that for you. You can be an expert in your industry, in your situation, in your customers' minds. The way you speak, the way you act, the knowledge you have is going to attract a particular type of customer, your ideal customer, and we'll talk about that more shortly. But this is what you're doing. You're using a book to position yourself as number one in your customers' minds. Now, note that all of this refers to a physical book, right? A published book, one that you can hold in your hands and show to people. You can't gain any real credibility with an ebook, and you're never really going to get noticed, yet alone obtain celebrity or expert authority status with one. It has to be an actual printed book. Now, again, we need to point this out. A lot of people say to me, oh, well, I know such and such has done really well out of ebooks. Yep. Hey, I know Andrew and Daryl Grant very well. I know what sort of success they had with ebooks. That was a business in and of itself. What we're talking about here is using a book to position you as the authority, to gain attention and build your trust and credibility. And for that reason, it needs to be a physical book. And I'll put it to you this way. Think about it like this. Think of any TV host show you've ever seen, Oprah or Jimmy Kimmel, or I can't think of who the current ones are, any of the morning shows that's on. You know, when they bring someone on and they say, here's so-and-so, the author of such and such book, and they physically hold the book up to the camera, don't they? Have you ever seen them bring anyone on? And here's so-and-so, author of an ebook. No, it never happens, right? You need a physical book for that credibility. So regardless of what business you are in, you need a physical book to create your credibility and personal brand awareness and grab attention to be seen as the expert, and then use that to drive traffic to your online site. Now, when it comes to sales, we all know you need to gain a prospect's attention and gain trust. And being an author gains attention. People are hungry for information, right? Hungry for the answers they need. The internet actually has too much information, and much of it is contradictory. And let's face it, a lot of it's from dubious sources. So where do you go to get trusted information? A book. And if you're old enough to remember a time before the internet, before Google or Yahoo or even Alta Vista, where did people go then to get information? Books. And guess what? They still do so today. The advent of the internet has not killed the printed book as it has for magazines, right? If anything, it strengthened the demand for it, especially during COVID lockdowns when the demand for books, in particular how-to type books I'm talking about now, went through the roof. And about 88% of all book sales are still physical books. So that means only about 12% of your online, either the Kindle type ebooks or audio books. 88% are still physical books. Now, here's the really beautiful part, right? When someone reads your book, you then have their attention completely and for at least a few hours. I grant you maybe not all at once if they get disrupted with a phone call or go get a tea or coffee or whatever, but at some stage they come back and they finish your book, meaning they've effectively had a one-on-one session with you for a few hours. What that means is they have effectively spent several hours with you. You, the author, have spent several hours with them building credibility and trust and positioning yourself as the expert, as the go-to authority. And you've done it without ever leaving your home, without ever having spent 1 minute with that person, without having to call them, without having to do anything. It's the ultimate form of leveraging your time. So the book builds trust and credibility. It positions you as the expert and it leverages your time. And it also gets you access to clients you may not have otherwise been able to reach. And I'll talk more about that shortly. Positioning yourself as the authority makes your competition effectively irrelevant. Why would anyone go to your competition when you're positioning yourself as the expert, the authority? We all know that there are people out there who want to buy twice, but buy twice, buy cheap. So that's why people tend to head towards authorities. Now, I've got this up here because to create a complete book quickly and easily, we need to bust some myths because there are a lot of myths and misconceptions about writing a book, right? And personally, I think that's a good thing because the general public, or more importantly, your potential customers or clients, they actually think this way. And that's why they respect authors and perceive them to be so capable and credible. So let me dispel some of the myths now so that you can concentrate on making your own book. And of course, the very first one is it takes a long time to write a book. No, it doesn't. And you don't even have to write it, right? So here's what we tell people. Start with the end in mind. And the thing you want to know is you really want to narrow down on who is your target audience. And please just don't say everybody. What sort of clients or customers are you trying to attract? And just as importantly, which ones are you trying to repel? You want to keep a really clear idea about that as you progress, right? Now, if you know how the book is going to end, what you want people to do once they've read your book, you want a call to action, you want them to do something, and you know how it's going to start. So you've got the beginning and the end. Now all you've got to do is work out a logical progression between that beginning and that end. And I suggest you just grab a whole heap of A4 pages and just start writing down on the top of them steps to get from the beginning to end. And then if you have to, reposition them around so it's making a nice logical step, beginning, step 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, right to the end. Believe it or not, they've now become your chapter titles. And under each chapter title, all you have to do is write down some points that need to be covered in that chapter to complete the understanding of that chapter and move on to the next one. And then it gets real simple. All you got to do is pick up your smartphone, your computer, or whatever, and just hit record and literally read out that chapter heading and then start talking to each of those bullet points. Right? It's actually that simple. Now, here's the thing. Do not exceed a 150-page book. Everyone wants to write the next War and Peace. Don't, right? Non-fiction books, people are looking for answers, especially in a how-to type book. And so they want to get there quickly and easily. And people's attention spans are getting shorter and shorter. If it's more than 150 pages, not only are fewer people going to buy it, but less people will finish reading it. And you really need them to finish reading your book so that they can take action or, pass it on to friends or do something of that extent. So, as I say, 150 pages, that works out to 30,000 words. Now, given the normal rate of speech, which I must admit is probably a little bit slower than I'm talking now, it's about 180 words a minute, you can speak 30,000 words in 2 hours and 47 minutes. Then you just need to have that transcribed, right? And there are many ways to do that. Now, I use otter.ai. It's a fantastic real-time transcription service that translates speech to text with reasonable accuracy. And I say reasonable, it's better than good, but it's not great. There's other ones out there that are now claiming to do 99% accuracy. I don't know. I think that's a big claim to make. But anyway, I won't pass judgment. I use this. Other people, what some people do, some of our authors, they then they upload that file and have someone transcribe it for you. And you can find people to do that at fiverr.com, freelancer.com, upworks.com or guru.com, or anywhere that freelancers are looking for work. So does this sound like a silly method? Can't possibly work? Well, believe it or not, that's how I created my first book. Some of you on this call probably know Ian Marsh, right? He created his book, The Inconvenient Truth About Business Success, in exactly this way. He just merely recorded his thoughts for each chapter title, and then he had it transcribed, and us, the publisher, we did the rest. Now, here's the interesting thing. Ian built this book with the back end in mind, knowing exactly what sort of client he wanted to attract and what sort of program he wanted to sell them into. So he knows, he's been able to track all this, and he knows that book that he created, but he created in just half a day. He didn't physically write it or even type it, and it's generated almost $600,000 for his business. Okay. So there are plenty of inexpensive options available to have an entire book written for you in your words. And in your words is the important part here, right? Because another myth is that you need to have a university education or degree to be taken seriously as an author and to be able to write in an academic way. Please do not do that, okay? Have you ever read an academic paper? They are boring. They're full of jargon. They're really only suitable for other academics in the same field. You need to write a book that's pretty much anyone can read and understand. And to do that, you want to write or at least converse record yourself talking as if you were conversing with a 15-year-old. And here's the important bit. Talk the way you normally talk. Let your sense of humor and personality come through, because that is what the reader connects with. That's what builds the bond and trust between reader and author. Now, I've had to include this picture here. This is John Gray, or better known as Dr. John Gray. If the name sounds familiar, it's because he wrote one of the best-selling books of all time, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. Yes, he does have a PhD, and his name is Dr. John Gray. So hasn't that just destroyed my whole argument? No, it hasn't. John was just John Gray when he wrote Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. Believe it or not, he took the manuscript and used that as the content for his thesis, and he submitted a thesis to get his PhD. His book was successful because he aimed it at the 15-year-olds, all right? That's why you got to start thinking. All right, another myth. You have to create your book yourself to have your name on it. No. Do you really believe presidents and prime ministers have the time to sit and write or even dictate their memoirs? No. Have you ever seen some of those athletes, and I'm thinking here in particular of your rugby union type guys, have you seen them that they're struggling to put more than 2 coherent sentences together, yet somehow they come out with lengthy autobiographies? It leaves me wondering, how did they ever manage that? Well, the answer is simple. Those books are being ghostwritten, right? Ghostwriters are professional writers who interview you, learn your story, what the desired outcome is for your book, and they learn it, like they will study you and learn the way you speak, the language you use, the turn of phrase you spiel, your sense of humor, and from there they'll go and write a complete manuscript for you. And the work is then published as your own with your name as the author. The ghostwriter's name does not appear anywhere on the book. Now, some people seem to think that's cheating, but this has been going on for at least centuries, probably millennia. Anyone who's ever read the Bible, Peter, one of the apostles, he was actually illiterate. Yet there's an entire book by Peter. Well, that was ghostwritten. He told them what to write. So this has been going on for a long time. If you've ever read any so-called autobiography by some celebrity, if you've read enough of them, I guarantee you've read a ghostwritten book and you weren't any wiser. It's given you the information you needed. It was still an entertaining read, and probably more so than had it been written by the person themselves. Now, you can find ghostwriters through the same online search or freelance services I mentioned before. Now, here's an interesting one. One of the myths is you might be left with a garage full of books. This is not something I've ever encountered, and we'll talk about that. But apparently a lot of people out there wanting to do their own books, this is one of their biggest concerns. And this is what it looks like. That's Sharon. That's one of our authors. You can see she's not concerned. She's got a big smile on her face. Why? Because those books have already been pre-sold. And that's what we actively work on with authors. We show them ways to market their book properly and actually pre-sell. And so what happens is in many cases, we've already pre-sold 1, 2, even 5,000 copies of the book before it ever arrives in country. So that's a big way to do it. It should never, ever be an issue. This is my favorite one. Books don't make any money. Look, that is true if you're using a traditional publisher. And as I said, I will describe the types of publishing shortly. But if you use an entrepreneurial publisher, you can actually make large amounts of money before your book is even published. Think about this. You haven't even created the book and you can make tens of thousands of dollars beforehand and a lot more once it is. And this is the real secret to entrepreneurial publishing and what I'm talking about today. And one of the ways to do that is to sell advertising in your book. Now, the secret here is not to call it advertising, right? Traditional publishers and bookstores don't like that sort of gross commercialization. But here's my point. If you're only writing a 150-page book and you're trying to convey all this information, there's only so much room you've got. And to give your readers as much help as you can, you owe it to them to provide other avenues to get more information and assistance. So therefore, you should include a resources section at the back of your book. Now, you should be the number one resource. You should be positioned there and your business, but you can sell other pages in that section to other businesses to advertise their products or services. Now, because of the life of a book is about 5 years, you can substantially increase the price of what those people would currently be paying for magazine or other print advertising. And depending on what industry you're in, a page in a book for advertising can easily sell anywhere from $10,000 to $14,000. Another of our authors used exactly this technique with her first book, How to Grow Your Business Faster Than Your Competitors, and generated a net income, that's after expenses, of $40,000 by selling spots at $10,000 each. Now, she had substantial expenses out of that she took care of, but that's $40,000 net she made before the book was even printed. And she's just one of many of our authors that have succeeded using that method. Okay, the next myth. To position you as the authority, the book has to be about you. No, again, you don't need to be the expert to be seen as an expert, okay? Celebrity authority and status is perception, positioning, and passion. So another way to gain authority is to leverage off the credibility and knowledge of already established leaders and authority in your field, which can be done through a compilation book. This is a really easy way to have a book completed because all you have to do is interview a select number of people, have those interviews transcribed, compiled, and published. And it's what we call, it creates the halo effect, right? Meaning that if you are an author interviewing and writing about these successful and knowledgeable people, then by association, you must be successful and knowledgeable about that topic too. At least that's how the readers perceive it. And authority is all about perception. Now, the reality is, of course, you do become far more knowledgeable in that particular area because you just interviewed the experts on it and you learn from them. And this is the classic example. I have to cover this one for you in a bit of depth because this is worth noting. This will be the best example of this I can possibly show you, because this book generated over $251,000 in sales in less than 2 weeks before it was printed. And we'll break all that down for you and show that to you. But the interesting part was it was written by a guy who was not a top franchise CEO himself, and he was trying to introduce a new franchise into Australia. Now, how hard would it be if you weren't known and your brand wasn't known trying to break into that market? So what he did is he's gone, and you can see there on the cover, people from Brumby's, Boost Juice, La Porchetta Pizza, Clark Rubber, Fernwood Studios, Leonard's Chicken, Pool Works. So all of these brands are very well known. So even though you don't know the CEOs, you're going to read the CEO's story, but you go, oh yeah, that brand's well established, I know them. You're going to come across this guy and his brand. You're not going to know them because you haven't heard of them before. But if they're positioned against these other great brands, then by association, they must be a credible brand as well. Now, what the beauty of this was, once he got this book printed, and we're going to break it down, as I said to you, he's now got all of these franchise outlets that he can put this book out through. So he's got all these new other places to sell it apart from bookstores and online. Now, how he did it, it was quite interesting. He'd gone and interviewed 14 franchises, recorded the interviews and had them transcribed, laid them out in the book as a compilation of interviews. So really, he's only had to write one chapter. Everyone else, so 14 other people effectively wrote this book for him, okay? And he's just leveraged off their credibility. Now, I think this is really impressive. In just 2 weeks, a book that sells for $29.95, he approached those 14 people and he said, listen, I've got a great deal for you. I'm going to position you in this book. We're going to put in the photos you want, but we're going to really give you a lot more notoriety, credibility. We're going to get your name out there. And as a result, you'll end up selling a lot more franchises. So this is great advertising for you. But I'm not even going to sell you a spot in the back of the book. What I'm going to ask you to do is help me make this a bestseller. So what I want is I want you to buy 1,000 books off me at a heavily discounted price. Let's make it a third price, $9.95. So he got 14 contributors all buying 1,000 books off him at $9.95. You think about how cheap that is. That's less than 10 grand. That's very cheap advertising for these sort of companies. It's going directly into the hand of the sort of people who want to know about franchises and are likely to buy them. And if they want to, they can turn around and sell them and actually make a massive profit, about $20,000 profit in this case. Other things they could do is hand them out at trade shows because it gives them credibility by being positioned in that book. There's a whole lot of things they could do. Personally, I would give them to my franchisees. I'd let my franchisees sell them as additional income. But anyway, that's what he did. So he made $139,300 just by doing that. Now, that advertising idea I told you about, he went and approached 15 advertisers and said, look, I'll sell you 500 books each for you to do whatever you want with at half price. And I'll advertise you the full page in the back of my book. That's generated another $112,000. So as I said to you, the total in revenue is over $250,000. Now, of course, you have to subtract the cost of the books from that. And when you do so, that's a total in profits of almost $144,000. Now, people, please think about this. That's $144,000 profit for a product that hasn't even been finished yet. It hasn't even been printed, and he's done that in just 2 weeks. Look, there's a lot of businesses in Australia that would be struggling to make that sort of profit in a year. So this is a very powerful method, okay? More importantly, from my way of thinking, 21,500 books were sold, which makes it an instant bestseller. And ultimately, that's what we're all about. We want to make a best-selling book. Why? A best-selling book, by definition, is one that sells really well, and that's what bookstores want. By having your book in the bookstore, that's what gives you the credibility, the attention. Even though your biggest number of sales may not come from there, you definitely want it in bookstores, and you definitely want the best-selling stamp to give you that additional credibility and to be able to sell more books. People want to buy best-selling books, so that's what we do. So that's an incredibly successful example. So the question is, could you do that? Yeah, of course you could. This is the whole thing, right? This was just on franchising, but you think about it, could have been done in anything. You could have done this on real estate agents, right? Same concept, interview all the best real estate agents. Maybe you're into natural health. Go and interview all the different health professionals like chiros, physios, massage therapists, naturopaths, nutritionists. and go do a book on that. The number of potential industries you could do this in is huge. And to prove the point that this particular example wasn't just luck, that same author has done the exact same thing multiple times in different fields and had the similar success every time. One of the authors from one of our courses, he wrote a book, but then he approached and said, well, why can't I do exactly the same thing? Well, you can. There's nothing to stop you. So he wanted to do it in his home country. So Pete Burden came out with New Zealand's top franchise leaders' secrets revealed. He literally just copied the model I showed you. In fact, you can see the book cover even looks very much the same. And doing this, he's created $120,000 in just 2 weeks before the book was even printed. And as you can imagine, it's only increased from there. So you can see it works each time you do it, and you can do many different topics. And it's really exciting what's possible. But let me get back to generating money from your book, because there's far more potential than most people will ever realize. And this is the whole thing. People don't understand. You don't make money from the sale of the book, but from everything else around it, right? And not just the advertising too. That's a big part, but there's a lot more money to be made from just selling advertising space in the back of it. The real wealth from a book comes from the credibility and positioning the book gives you and the other sales you'll make as a result of that. By driving people from your book to your website, you're going to create a large database of hot clients. And that's ultimately where the money is made. From the sales of other products or services you're going to advertise through your website to a list of pre-qualified and hot buyers who already accept you as the expert in your field because of your book. This is another classic example. I've got to cover this one. Conrad Bobolak, he's actually coming to our next event next week, but he attended our 3-day workshop and he had no established business. I mean, nothing. He didn't have premises. He didn't have a business name, no leads, nothing, right? He was working for National Australia Bank at the time. And at the course, we covered the game behind the game, and he immediately understood and was blown away by the potential of it. So he decided right then and there he wanted to set up his ultimate lifestyle to work when he wanted, where he wanted, and he wanted to pay himself $1 million a year. Now, it's important to note he'd never earned anything like that before, okay? But during the workshop, he started to craft his book around the game behind the game. He completed it. You can see it there, Australian Property Finance Made Simple. It did become a bestseller. And he created his websites and a YouTube channel around the book designed to attract his ideal client and repel those who aren't. So he wasn't wasting his time with the wrong people. Now, using that book, he has created a company from nothing, which is now paying him $1 million a year income. And yet to this day, his company has not spent even one single dollar on advertising the business, not one. All right. Now, as Conrad says, the real benefit of the book is he's going to reach the type of clients he wants, but could never otherwise get access to. And he's got a whole lot of examples of them, but the ones that stick out in my mind were international airline pilots when they're flying. You know, they pick up his book at London Heathrow Airport in the news agents there. They'll read it on the way to New York, and they'll get off the flight and pick up the phone and ring him ready to do business. He's got expat surgeons and other specialists looking to come back to Australia but want to minimise their tax. So they read his book on holiday in Spain or something, and then they contact him ready to buy. Now, I want you to really think about that, because these are people who are already avid fans from reading his book. They trust him enough to do multi-million-dollar deals without ever meeting him face-to-face, all because of his book. Now, this is an interesting one, right? He has actually, because he's got more work than he can handle, he's given his entire system to 2 mates in the same industry, and he's given them everything. He gave them his solicitors, he gave them his bank manager, he gave them all of his sales copy, all of the people who do his websites, he's given them all the templates for all that. Every single thing he does, he's given it to them and told them to reproduce it. And the first thing he told them to do is write a book. Now, interestingly, he earns $1 million a year from the strategy. His mates make zero. They went out of business. They're now working for other people. What was the one difference? They don't have a book. For whatever reason, they decided not to do a book. They didn't understand the importance of it, or they were too lazy, or they thought it was too hard. He doesn't know why, but as he said, the fact that they don't have a book, that's the only difference, and they're not making any money, is just further proof. It's the book positioning him as the authority that is the number one lead generator he's got that's made all the difference in his business. Back-end products, this is really important. You can easily create other products from the content of your book. I'll talk about that very quickly later. And you sell them to people who have read your book and want more from you. And you're going to make a lot more money like that. Look at Tony Robbins. He actually is success comes from books, believe it or not. He's repositioned himself as an expert in financial matters by using a book. But it's not the money. He doesn't make him rich. He doesn't get rich from the book, does he? He sells the book, and a large number of people who read the book and connect with you, they want more from you. So from that, he can sell them up to a course, an online course. From the course, he can sell them into an event, a 1 or maybe a 2-day event. People who want that like that might go into a 2 or 3-day event, so they'll pay more money for that. People who really like that will go into his boot camps or workshops. That might be 4 or 5-day event. And you can see at each stage as people are moving up the ladder, they're paying a lot more money. Sure, not everybody who reads your book does, but the number that go on and spend that extra money, that's where the real wealth lays, not from the book itself. And you can see at his high-end coaching, he's got like 100-odd people in that program paying him $85,000 each. Well, what does that matter? How does that apply to you? Well, you can do exactly the same thing. You start with the book, and it's very easy to turn content from your book into a course. Again, you don't even have to do it yourself. For literally just hundreds of dollars, you can send your manuscript off to one of those freelancers I mentioned before and have them turn your book into a course for you. You can run e-classes. You can have online video and audio type courses. There's a lot you can do. Running an event's not for everybody, but if you did run an event, you could videotape that. And then, of course, you've got the video product. You lift the audio off that as an audio product. You transcribe it. You've got a written product. You've now got another course that you could sell for a substantial amount of money, probably around $3,000. And then because you've positioned yourself as the authority, as the expert through your book, people will want more help from you. People will be prepared to either do small group coaching with you or even one-on-one coaching. And you can easily charge $30,000 for that. I've put less in there initially because a lot of people have a lot of resistance around this. They, oh, well, I'm not worth $30,000 a year. Yes, you are. Think about it. If you may not have all of the information, but if you put what you know in your book and people have read that and they go, well, he knows more than me. I need help. I need answers. And this guy or this woman can provide that for me. Then $30K a year, that only works out to $2,500 a month. People are prepared to pay that to get their business or their problem solved. Okay. So that is definitely something you can do. All right, only producing a 150-page book. For those wanting extra information, have that listed on your website. If you've got any sort of graphs or any sort of pictures, you're normally quite small and in black and white in a book, make sure you've got larger color versions on your website and tell people to go to the website to see them. If you're trying to explain a difficult topic or concept, make a video of that and put it up on your website. But make sure you have a capture device. Make sure for people to see all of those things, they've got to input their name and email. And that's how you're building a list of people who have already read your book. They already trust you. These are the list of hot buys that you can sell other things to, other back-end products as you create them, okay? Because people will want more from you. Look, it doesn't matter whether you're an online business or an offline business. Your book will make you stand out, gain massive credibility, grow your business exponentially, the entire time leaving you so far out of your head of your competition that they become irrelevant. I'll show you some more examples. This is Jason Smith. He founded Back in Motion. Now, this is a physiotherapy business, right? A bricks and mortar physio business. But they've got, well, they had more than 60 locations around the country. They had something like 350 odd staff. And at the time, that made them the largest such group in Australia. And they were turning over something like $60 million a year. But Jason wanted to grow and he had an exit strategy. He understood the game behind the game, and he wanted to use the book to promote himself, his franchise, and even his franchisees. So he actually had 13,000 copies of his book printed in the first print run and literally received close to $500,000 worth of free media and PR. What do you think that did for his company, right? What would that do for you? Because believe it or not, that is quite typical. That is quite easy to do. And I'm going to explain this in some detail because this is the ultimate way to use a book. And I'm sure you're going to get some great ideas out of this. Now, you can see there the initial cover came out with him on the front cover, but he put the authoritative body, the name of the body on the. So he made sure that he had their permission to do so. But you can see that he's in association with the authoritative body. So that gives extra credibility through the halo effect. But what I really like then is he's gone and put each of his franchisees on the front cover with their name under his. So it looks like they've sort of co-authored a book, and this was used for them to promote themselves in their local markets. And you think about how powerful that would be, each of them being able to do that. Do you think their competition had anything like that? No. And people want to go to the authority, so they're going to see these people as the authority. And so his franchisees did very, very well out of this concept. And as a result, he was able to sell a lot more franchises. And so he's ended up being able to sell the whole thing off for about $125 million. Did really, really well. Karina Francois, another interesting one, because again, she was a naturopath in a brick and mortar business, right? And she was struggling. So she wanted to know how to grow a business. Well, to grow any business, you've got to be able to gain attention and build trust. How do you do that? Through a book. So she ended up writing Clean Food, Clear Thinking, Change Your Body, Change Your Mind. And once that came out, she couldn't believe the exposure she got. The amount of magazines that then were tracking her down and wanting articles from her in their magazines. Now, she's not creating extra content here. She's just lifting pieces out of her book and sending them to them. But this has established her as the authority. So another magazine was smart to get onto her, and they had her as the resident expert. And so you can see here that she was featured in their magazine each week or month, whatever it was. She did this for a couple of magazines. And so that's creating more authority and more credibility. And what that meant is it's driving more people to her website. So even though she's in a physical location and she can't treat everybody, she's now got a list of hot buyers. So what did she do? She went and what we call white label. She bought a clean herbal. She bought a range of herbal teas and put her own brand on it. And she now sells that around the world. This is an entire source of income worldwide that's completely separate to her bricks and mortar business. And this has only come about because of a book. This is my favorite, Joe Munro. If I ask anyone what their passion is, I think most people here would say shopping. As I said to you, if you're not sure what your business you want to be into or what you do, what is your passion? What is your hobby? She wanted to write a book on her passion, shopping. So she came up with The Savvy Shopaholic. And she had no idea the success that was going to generate. She has literally made hundreds and hundreds of TV appearances, okay? More than that, because of that, she gets a lot of stuff given to her. A lot of people, they want brands want her to promote their brands on her website and stuff. So she's got thousands and thousands of dollars of products that people just give her for free to test in case she decides to spruik about them. She actually got her own, which was approached to have her own line of jewelry. So an online jewelry manufacturer actually approached her to do this. And I think that's quite incredible. She gets a percentage of all the sales made, and it's been a very powerful thing for her. So she could never have foreseen that coming. And that's my point. A book can provide so many opportunities that you never, ever saw coming. She never imagined that. She probably never imagined being on television, yet alone having her own jewelry line named after her. Regardless of what subject you decide to write about, what your book will get you that many people don't realize is access to other influencers and ideal clients, and is a perfect way to share your message, build your brand, support a charity, or make a massive difference to many others, all whilst creating your own legacy. One of the other things I didn't say right at the very start is it's not just about businesses, it's not just about passions and hobbies. We've published a lot of people who've just told their life story, and in doing so, they've been able to help others. And one of the classic ones was a guy who was quite literally suicidal, suffering from PTSD. So he wrote a book about PTSD. The exercise was cathartic. It saved his life, but it's gone on to help so many other people. And he's now become a pillar in the community, assisting returning vets and problems like that. We've had another woman who survived the Christchurch earthquake. She had a building fall down on her. Because of the authority and the credibility that book has given her, she was then able to go and raise money to help someone get a heart transplant. So as I say, if you write about business, if you want to grow your business, this is the ideal tool. If you want to start a business from your passion or your hobby, a book is the way to do it. But if you just want to tell your story, a book is a great way to do that too. All right, if you The thing about a book is most people look at it as written information easily disseminated. That's how books have been for centuries, right? Well, that's just the very tip of the iceberg. Done correctly, it will develop your personal branding. It will establish you as the authority, the expert. It will create a whole lot of content for you. So you can just lift parts out of that and put them in magazines like Katrina did. List building. It builds a list of hot buyers, people already predisposed to buy from you. It gives you speaking opportunities. Now, I understand not everyone's comfortable speaking from the stage, but the whole point is experts do get paid a lot of money by some companies to speak from the stage. So you should consider it, because you'd be amazed what people would be prepared to offer you there. You get so much free press and media coverage. Joint ventures, people are going to approach you because your value has increased, the value of your brand has increased, and people will want to be associated with that. So people will approach you with no money down type joint ventures, your win-win type situation. Builds confidence, not just in your customers who are now see you as the expert and happy to buy from you, but it builds your confidence too. Writing a book is actually like a big self-help development type program. It's quite amazing. We've encountered this with many of our authors and helped many of them through it. It opens doors you never saw coming, like Joe Munro. Leverages your time better than anything else I have ever encountered, and builds wealth, and in many cases, massive wealth. So let's quickly talk about the types of publishing, because most people have this conception that you, the author, you write something, you send it off to the publisher. They're just so grateful to have it, your words. Wow, fantastic. Thank you. We'll make that into a book for you. We'll send it to the distributors, get it to the bookstores. The customers will read it, and we'll all get very rich all round. No, highly, highly unlikely scenario for a whole lot of reasons. First and foremost, publishers can only handle so much work, right? And they turn down a lot more, and I'm talking like 90% of all of the manuscripts that come their way. Publishing is an expensive exercise, so they're reluctant to take on new authors as well. So that's a nice myth. It's not exactly how it works. So let's look at traditional publishing. Because of that risk, they want well-known or established proven authors. They have all the say in your design. People don't realize this. You may have an idea exactly how you want your book to look like, or what colors you want to use on the cover. You don't get any say in that whatsoever. They do all of that. They decide how it's going to look internally, what sort of paper, what sort of print, what sort of font, what sort of size, what sort of pictures. You do not get any say whatsoever. You cannot advertise or market in your book. So if you do what I just showed you before about selling that resources section, if you've taken money off people, traditional publishers won't let you do it. So you could find yourself in a lot of trouble. If you want to sell your book at events or from the stage or whatever you're doing, you have to purchase it back from them at 50% off retail. I've got their 12 to 18 months to bring your book to market. We're dealing with several people now who have all gone down the traditional publishing route. They're coming to us to get their books published, because they're actually telling us it takes closer to 2 years to get a book published through a traditional publisher. And in one of those cases, the reason the woman approached us is because within 2 years, the content of her book is actually out of date. So she's incredibly frustrated. You only get paid 3 to 5% of the cover price. Remember when I said you don't make much money on the sale of a book from a traditional publisher? That's why. Now, they dictate the cover price as well. So those books I showed you before for $29.95, they may decide to only sell them for $19.95 or $17.95. So, yeah, you'd be lucky to make 50 cents to $1 on each book sold. The beautiful part about traditional publishers is they do handle all the distribution and bookstore orders and sales, and that is why they have been able to dominate for so many centuries. That's why it works. But because of the limitations, because they turn down so many authors, many people have turned to self-publishing, and you make a hell of a lot more money. Whatever you can sell the book for, subtract the cost of that, and you've just made that as profit. A lot more flexibility to sell your books into other markets. I've got there no restrictions. That's not quite true. You'll have a bugger of a time trying to get into bookstores. We'll talk about that. You get to the printers a lot sooner, 16 weeks versus 18 months. Keep control of all your work and designs, the cover, everything else. You can market and advertise in your own book to your heart's content. However, there are a whole lot of legal requirements around publishing a book that you do need to know, and you have to design, proofread, lay out and print your book to the international publishing standards, arrange barcodes, ISBN numbers, put them in the correct places, register with the National Libraries and lodge a sample book, and request international library cataloguing numbers. Now, all that may seem fairly straightforward. It's not as simple as it seems, and you can't just go online and find the answers. Why? Because traditional publishers don't share that information because they don't want you self-publishing. They want you to go through them. You have to hold and warehouse all your stock, which may have been that myth that people were concerned about, being stuck with a garage full of books. Package, ship, and deliver to your resellers weekly, and you have to find a book distributor. However, book distributors don't normally deal with self-published books. So you then have to find bookstores to buy your books. But here's the thing, bookstores don't want to be dealing with thousands of individual authors. That's why they deal with distributors. So bookstores won't deal with you, distributors won't deal with you because you're not a publisher. You can see it becomes a catch-22. It becomes a vicious circle. Bookstores like to deal with distributors and major publishers. This sounds a bit snobbish, but book buyers don't like self-published books. No matter how good a job you do with your self-published book, I guarantee you, anyone in the industry can tell it's self-published. There's just certain giveaways that you'll never get exactly right. And book buyers, whether they're just snobbish or whatever, they don't like self-published books. So there's problems there. The reason the entrepreneurial publisher was established, and we've been around for 15 years, is because we've taken the best of traditional publishing, the best of self-publishing, and we've done away with all of those negatives. And we've given you a distribution outlet. So what that means is making it far easier and far more profitable for authors than ever before. And in particular, as I say, in that how-to non-fiction market, that's what we specialize in. And we have all the techniques and all the contacts and the methodology to do it over 15 years to produce the highest number of best-selling authors. And look, we have helped thousands of authors, and we have published literally hundreds and hundreds of their books, just some of which you see there. As I said to you, we have produced the highest number of best-selling authors as a percentage of authors published. We've produced tons of media, online and offline. All of this is offline. This is just a mere sample of what we've generated. We're talking hundreds of thousands, more. Thousands of millions, whatever that works out as, of dollars of media over that 15 years for all of these authors. So my question to you is, you've obviously had a sense that you wanted to write a book. How would you feel walking into a bookstore and seeing your book on the bookshelf? What would that do for your business or your hobby or your interest, that you're trying to turn into a business? How would other people feel about you seeing your book there? That's Conrad Bobolak again, who wrote that property finance book I told you about. That's some of the awards that he's won for his best-selling book, standing beside his AMG Mercedes. But he sent us this photo because he likes to tell the story about he was going through a shopping centre and he couldn't find his daughter, and she came running out of a bookstore going, "Daddy, Daddy, quickly come look, your book's in here." And you can see there he's positioned between Tony Robbins, Warren Buffett, and right above Robert Kiyosaki. How do you think that made him feel? And I've already said what it's done for his business. That's created $1 million a year that he's now paying himself, okay? So look, this is as much as I can get through in the time allotted. I think it would have shown you a lot you probably weren't aware of in the industry. But what I'm going to do is I'm running a 3-day event next week to show people directly behind the scenes. It's a real peek behind the scenes of the entire publishing industry, going into far more detail, how to write a bestseller and grow your brand. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so the 24th to 26th of March at the Voco Convention Centre, 85 North Quay, Brisbane. Seats strictly are limited. That's not a marketing ploy. We will work with you. I'll describe this in some detail, but we've got a small team and we need only a certain number of people because we've got to work with you. This is a truly unique event, people. This is not a multi-speaker pitch fest. I'm not going to have a whole lot of people there trying to flog their wares to you, nor is it a teaser where I only give you enough to whet your appetite. I'm going to give you everything you need, right? That said, it's not me talking for 3 days straight. It's an interactive workshop where we work together to help you come up with a concept for your book and actually work on it in real time with real feedback and guidance along the way. And we give you an informative 130-page guidebook for the event, and you work through that with me and with the team, and you'll actually leave the workshop not just with your title and subtitle done, but they'll actually be tested in real time in the group. You'll have the front and rear cover design brief completed, and there's a science to that. The reason we sell so many books is because of how we do the covers, and the idea for the chapters of your book will all be laid out, right? So this is the hardest part already completed. So ask yourself, how long do you think that would take if you weren't at the workshop? Because I've shown you how easy it is to complete the content. I'm telling you now, we always say it takes about, if this will save you 3 to 5 years. All the authors that come back, and we do have authors on stage talking about their experience, they tell you it saves 10 years of your life. Some of them will say they never would have got started if they hadn't attended this event. Now, I'm also going to cover some truly innovative and creative ways to market your book far more effectively than anyone else is doing. And again, that will position you far above any competition. So this is going to be one of the most exciting things you can do in your career and a game changer for your business. Or if you don't currently have a business like Conrad did and you're going to start one through this, turn your hobby or your passion into a business, this is going to be a game changer for your life. And that's why I'm so passionate about sharing this with others, because I know what happens from this and I know that you'll be so grateful you did it. Okay? So look, we're rewarding action takers. This is we cut this deal off, but Aldwyn's come back and said that she's running this event tonight. We're definitely going to help her out. If people are going to act on it, the general entry tickets are $97, which is phenomenally good money. That's 3 days, incredible content, morning tea and afternoon tea laid on, and the catering is exceptional. That's a very, very small outlay. I offer a full 100% money back guarantee because you're going to get so much out of the event, far more than you expected. I know you're just not going to be disappointed. We've never had anyone claim that in 15 years. But what's going to happen is we're going to give action takers, the gold tickets are not $297. So you're going to get the workbook and over $1,500 in bonuses. And these are exceptional bonuses, I can assure you. So from this webinar, I'm going to get Aldwyn to put in a link. If she can do that, I'll get you to click on the link. And if you click that link, that means you're on this call and that we will actually give you a gold ticket, 130-page workbook, over $1,500 of bonuses, not for the gold price of the ticket, but just for $97. So how that's going to work, you'd have to click on the link. You'd have to go in, buy the silver ticket, only buy the silver ticket, but we'll automatically upgrade you to the gold ticket. So, Aldwyn, have you got that in there?
Yes, I've popped that in there, and you'll be able to see that in the comments, and we'll come to any questions you might have in just a moment as well. That is a brilliant offer. Amazing. We will, is that the end of the slideshow now?
That is it. I'll
Andrew?
Stop sharing and
okay. Beautiful.
There you go. Well done.
Thank you so much. That was fantastic. Absolutely love that. And now I've seen you present before, and we always pick up new things. And I love how you bring together the best of traditional publishing and self-publishing, and you've got so many amazing ways to help people monetize their book and really focusing on the game behind the game.
Yes.
It's not about the book itself, it's about what that gives you. And it can often be a transformational process for people, can't it, doing a book? Can you share a bit about that, please?
Not can be, it is. It just definitely is. So a lot of people approach a book writing with self-doubt and everything. And I understand all of the problems that people have, and that's why we have the system that we have. And that system is what generates the greatest success. But of course, we also support authors throughout the process. So that's what people will talk about the most at this event, the hand-holding. But each and every one of them, and a lot of people have done a lot of self-development work in the past. They've done a lot of self-development courses, done things with Tony Robbins, but they're the sort of people who'll say writing a book, completing a book is a transformational, whatever you just said before, journey.
Transformational.
Yeah, and it really is. And people grow as a result of that, and their confidence grows as a result of that. And as a result, their business grows because of that confidence and that trust they attract. But yeah, look, we concentrate heavily on the money. We want to be able to monetize this for people. We want it to be a success for people. And most people attribute money with success. But yeah, when you stand on the other side, like I know Aldwyn, you in particular, we're looking at the difference it makes in people's lives. So the books that have been written, they're how-to type books, they are changing people's lives. Like I say, PTSD, the amount of suicides, it prevented his own suicide, but the amount of suicides he's prevented because of that book and because of his assistance, I can't reach those people, but I can help him make that book. So by 1 degree of separation, I've managed to help those people. So I can only help a couple of hundred authors at a time, but those couple of hundred authors go out to help tens or even hundreds of thousands of people. And that's the exciting part about it. And that's what you need to understand about your book. When you're sitting there going, well, no one wants to hear from me. Well, actually, they do. You've got something to say. There's an audience out there that wants to hear it, and it's going to help people. I tell you right now, it will help them, and it'll help you. It is a transformational process, yes.
I love it. And I love all the myth busting that you did there as well, and how quickly a book can be done. You know, I think often people make things harder than they need to be, right? Who's like that here
Sure.
watching this live? Who can say, yes, you make things harder than they need to be sometimes. And, you know, Otter is amazing, actually. I'm in about 17 compilation books now. I absolutely love the power of books. In fact, I was at the Worthy Women Summit on the weekend, and I sold out of the books that I had there. And it's so fantastic to, you know, you do the work once and you can sell it again and again and again. It is really so powerful. And yet, and you're inspiring people's lives every time you sell a book with your story. So it really is such a gift to do that. And the potential is massive for what can happen with these books too. I'm in a book series, the Feminescence book series, and now that has just been announced. It's going to be in the Hollywood swag bags at the Oscars for 2023, right? So who knows who's going to see it from there? You know, some massive celebrities going to be at that event. And this is the thing, you never know where your book is going to go. And I particularly like the compilation books, I must say, because everyone's doing their best chapter in there, or you could position yourself, as you say, as the expert and then interview a whole lot of people on that topic. So for those who are thinking of coming into this, and maybe they think, oh, gee, I don't have a very good story, or other people's story is better than my story. What do you say to those people, Andrew?
Everyone else in the room feels exactly the same way, and you won't feel like that at the end of 3 days. So, it's bizarre. Again, because books have done such a great job of positioning people as authorities and experts, as I said to you, it's in the top 10% of professions in terms of prestige. So we all hold authors in high esteem. And because we don't feel the same way about ourselves, we just think, well, I'm not worthy. But you actually are. It's your story that needs to be told. That's what people are going to connect with. So people say to me, well, I don't want to write another business book. There's already plenty of those out there. Yeah, but there's not one that's been written from your point of view with your experience. And look, I can tell you, we've published a hell of a lot of business books, and I've read all of them. And some of them really resonate with me and some of them don't. But those that don't really resonate with other people. And that's what we're trying to do. Let's look at it yourself. Aldwyn, do you own a cookbook?
Yes, I do.
Do you own more than one?
Yes.
Yep. And you know what? Here's the thing. If you own a real estate book, I guarantee you own more than one. If you own a business book, you own more than one. So people want more, people are looking for more information. And so if you do it the way we teach you to do it, you're going to be able to get and help people, and people are going to want more from you. So you definitely have something to say. Every single person watching this now, you definitely have a book in you, because otherwise you probably wouldn't be on this call. But we can show you how to bring that out and how to find your audience, and that's what it's all about. You can definitely help people. And just because lots of books have been written before, remember there's new audience coming up all the time. There's new people leaving school every year looking for answers. 40% of all of the requests that go into YouTube start with how to. And so that's why we concentrate on how to type books, because that's what people are looking for. They want the answers in a book.
And they also want to hear your story and connect with you personally. So if you've been through any hardship whatsoever, you've come out the other side, there'll be a story there of how that has happened for you. As they say, everything happens for you, not to you. So how that's happened for you, how you've overcome those challenges. And if you know 10% more than someone else on your topic, you can teach it, right? To just 10% more. You'll never know everything about your topic. Right? I've been in the media 39 years. I don't know everything about my topic. Media is changing so rapidly in the social media world, and now TikTok's going crazy. And, there's so much. Chat GPT's just come out, and actually, that's an interesting thing, this Chat GPT, these chatbots. People might think, oh, I'll just rely on the chatbot to write my book for me. However, there's a lot of dangers with that, aren't there, Andrew? So can we talk a bit about that, please?
Yeah, exceptional. So look, Chat GPT's definitely got its place, and so I can see content creation for blogs and things like that. I understand where that's coming from, but understand what we're saying here with the book. It's about telling your story. It's about people connecting with you. And Chat GPT, any AI is just not capable of doing it. If you don't believe me, get on and just say, write a story about Andrew Carter from Global Publishing Group. It's not capable of doing it. It doesn't know me. It doesn't know my background. It can't tell the experiences that I've had in business or in aviation or whatever I might be writing about. And people aren't reading a business book just for the business help. They want to know that the person that is writing that book is like them. They want to be able to connect to that person. They want to be able to understand that person. They want to know you've had the same troubles or that they've had and how you've overcome them. Try typing in something as simple as how would an Australian invite a mate to a barbecue? Right, get them to write that, and you have a look at how comical it truly is. Chat GPT is just not capable of doing what we need it to do. If you're going to write a how-to type book, if you purely want to say how to do this, it will list out all of the points on how to do that. But that's not what the reader's going to connect with. The people want to know your story. They want to be able to hear your voice through the book. And that's why we ask you to actually read the book and dictate the book, because that way your voice comes through. And that's what people connect with. And that's what happens with Conrad Bobolak all the time. When people find out who he is, they go, oh, I've read your book. And then when they start talking to him, they go, yeah, you're definitely the guy who wrote that because you sound exactly the way that book was written. So that's what people connect with. Chat GPT or any AI is just not capable of doing that.
Yes, absolutely. And there are a lot of errors too with the chatbots. So beware if you are using it or relying on it in any way. I mean, I think it is phenomenal in some ways. It can be used for some things, but I think you've got to enable some critical thinking here and really, do your due diligence and share your story from the heart. That's really, as you say, what people connect with. That's what builds the trust, and that's what will make people want to work with you as well. And will build your brand and your influence like nothing else. So I think it is incredibly powerful. In fact, I've done this 3-day event myself. I did it about 10 years ago in Brisbane, and I loved it then. And I'm going to come back. I'm going to come back to Brisbane. So for those who want to join us, I have shared the link there for the How to Write a Bestseller for business owners, particularly for entrepreneurs. Love you to join us for that. Morning, afternoon tea included. You get the 130-page workbook as well. I'll pop it up on the screen here as well. How to write.
Is that gone into private chat or the comments? Did you get any comments?
That's gone into the comments. It's gone into the comments. Yeah, right. That's in the public comments. And if you can't see it wherever you're watching this right now, if you're on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, etc., if you can't see that, I will check after this stream ends and make sure that the comments are in there. Sometimes all the comments don't always go across to every stream, so I will double check that and make sure that we get the comments in each of the streams so that you can connect there. It really is going to be brilliant. March 24 to 26 in the centre of Brisbane. Invoco Brisbane is a great location, a great venue, and I think it'll be really brilliant to have that workbook as well, and to actually, you can get started on your book at this workshop, right? So for those who've been deliberating, procrastinating around doing a book, here's your chance to actually, plant the seed now. 50% of anything you do is just starting. And so by actually coming along here, just $97, that's a phenomenal offer there for you. Get the $297 package with $1,500 of extra bonuses for just $97. That is extraordinary. Thank you so much for that, Andrew. It's going to be brilliant. Can't wait. And I know a few of my friends are coming too, and we're going to have a great time. So look forward to seeing you there. I can't see any comments here. We've got a thank you here. We've asked if there's recordings going to be available. Yes, you'll be able to see the replay if you've had to run off. If you came, I know there are people coming and going through this webinar. So if you did have to run off, you will be able to see the replay on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and Twitter as well. I've got someone here. Thanks so much for all the info, Andrew. I don't know who this Facebook user is because it doesn't show your name here, but you can allow StreamYard to see to show your name just at the top of the stream there. So if you just click that, it'll allow us to see your name. So thank you, Facebook user, whoever you are. I appreciate you saying that, and thank you so much for everyone who's joined us. Anything else you'd like to share, Andrew?
No, look, I hope that's given everyone a great insight to it. But as I say, there's a lot more to cover in the 3-day event. We'll unravel everything and show it in great detail, a lot more examples. But it's the fact that we actually get to work with you, and we'll be able to show you the science and test what you've done. Because a lot of people think, oh, well, I know how to do this now. I've just seen this. Well, no, you don't. And when when we're actually testing your stuff, we can explain to you why that doesn't work and show you exactly how to make this work. So it's not just about finishing a book. It's about finishing a quality professional product that's going to position you and create a lot of trust and credibility for you and help others. That's the big deal. And Aldwyn, I know that's what you're all about, and that's exactly why you've got involved in it. And that's what we want to do. We want to be able to reach as many people through your book and through your story. So we'd love to see you at the event and, more importantly, on the best-selling list.
Yes, look forward to seeing you on the best-selling list. Very, very cool. Thank you so much, Andrew. We can see why you have wowed and transformed the lives and businesses of people from all walks of life, including thought leaders, business CEOs, retailers, entrepreneurs, and so many authors. You're doing a phenomenal job with Global Publishing Group. So congratulations with what you have put together there. Look forward to seeing you. And there will be a special guest as well, won't there, on
Yeah, we'll have a couple of special guests. We have Sharon Jurd will be speaking, but that Conrad Bobolak I showed you with the real estate, he's going to be doing a talk as well. So he's actually going to show you how to create the business behind the book. And we're going to have past authors on stage as well. So the beauty of having authors is all of those doubts that you were talking about, all of those concerns, that transformational process, they'll be able to talk about that in real time, talk about how that affected them and what they've achieved as a result of it. So lots of guest speakers, actually, Aldwyn, and that'll be the most exciting part of it for sure. Yeah.
Awesome. And a really practical workshop with morning and afternoon tea included, 130-page workbook, and it's going to be amazing. And I'm sure some great connections will be formed in that room as well. So it really will be a special event. We look forward to seeing you there, March 24 to 26 in Brisbane, Voco Brisbane. Go to the link in the comments there, which we have. We have streamed this to the Mass Media Tribe Facebook group, to the Loving Life group, the Conscious Community Global group, the Aldwyn Altuney Media Queen Facebook page, to LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, and to my personal profile. So you should see it in all of those places. Here's the link again for you, bestsellerevent.com, and then that's the long link there, so you can just click on that. Check it out. We look forward to seeing you there, and mention that you came from here so that you can get the gold offer for the silver price. Okay, for just $97, absolute bargain. I mean, that's barely covering the food, I would say. So that will be extraordinary. Thank you so much once again, Andrew. Any final words before we wrap up the recording today?
No, thank you, Aldwyn, and thank you everyone for the opportunity. And as she said, take action. Like, don't hesitate. You all have a story in you, and it needs to be told. And now is easier to do it than ever before. So come along and find out how.
Love it. And as Gandhi says, be the change you wish to see in the world. We look forward to seeing you there at the How to Write a Bestseller event in Brisbane, March 24 to 26. Thank you once again, Andrew Carter, the CEO of Global Publishing Group. Thank you, Andrew.
All. Good night.
Bye.